Call this collective committee meeting to order for February 19th, and the first will be the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. This evening, we had a Economic Development Committee meeting. There was only one topic, and that was the CRA tax incentive agreement with Poly One Corporation. Kyle Rose from Poly One was Poly One's representative at the meeting tonight. He answered all of our questions. There's the application and also some information about the tax abatement. This tax abatement did get passed by the CRA and also the school district. So we'll see this at next week's meeting. Just to let you know, this is a request for a tax abatement of 100% for 15 years. This is also, they're looking to potentially build an 80 to 100,000 square foot facility, about a $25 million project that would also create 25 new jobs over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Mr. Esborn, I'd like to say the words here at the meeting this evening, and done a lot of work on the project, so if you'd add any other comments before we ask the question.
Thank you, Council President. I think Councilman Arnold really covered most of the status of this. This is a process that Poly One is going through, to determine if this financial incentive is available to them for this project, which is proposed to be an 80 to 100,000 square foot research and development facility with a very attractive amount of new jobs and payroll. So nothing much to add to Councilman Arnold on that, and thanks to the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you.
Just if I can add one.
Go ahead.
We're going to request two readings on this.
2 readings?
As of now, unless they request it to be just one reading, but as of today, it's 2 readings.
Okay. Question thing with the CR tax incentive with Poly One Corporation. So presented tonight at the Economic Development Committee, as noted. Questions? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Arnold?
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's go on to Finance Committee. That was held this evening. We were dealing with the 2019 bond issues. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Presley.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. The city will be rolling or converting all of its current outstanding bonds notes, 1-year annual notes into 20-year bonds. They do require various ordinances be approved relative to the type of bond, relative to a road improvement bond or equipment or other capital improvement. The bonds will then be aggregated and sold competitively in one lot on or about April 10th. Additionally, we will be coming back for a couple more ordinances for conversion of Avon Lake Regional Water outstanding notes into bonds that will be sold on or about April 20th. Those will retire the current notes that are outstanding. The purpose of this is to ensure by taking them to bonds that we do lock in the interest rates over the next 20 years for the city issuances and 30 years for the Avon Lake Regional Water issuances, so that those payments are known and can be budgeted for again, the next 20 or 30 years, instead of being subject to interest rate risk by continuing to take out 1-year notes. The program back in 2014, when we first started this, was to take advantage of the extremely low interest rates and continue to roll those over in 1-year notes. But as we look at this point in time and look to some of the future projections for interest rates, we feel it in the best interest to convert those into bonds at this point and lock in the low interest rates. If we could, I would look to request that council pass this on second reading.
So we're on second reading, and we need to complete these by March 25th, is it?
I believe that is the date, yes, which will give us enough time to get to, we'll be working with Moody's. We'll have to go back to Moody's on a rating with those.
Right.
And then also OMAC, as far as getting them into OMAC for the report, and then Parity, which is the online bidding process that we will use for those investment houses to actually bid on the bonds. And obviously, the lowest net interest cost will be the winning bid that we will accept.
But both has to be done by, both utilities and the cities need to be done by around that date.
Yes, sir.
To get it
We do
done
have, I
for you
think,
to
one
go out and sell
extra
in April.
meeting for the utilities, but if we could get them both done at the same time, that'd be great.
These actions passed 3-0 in the Finance Committee this evening as well. Any questions dealing with this item? Mayor?
Thank you. The first reading would be next Monday, the 25th of February, and the second reading would be on March 11th. Certainly, that gives us sufficient time here to do what we need to do and everything lined up. So 2 readings would work very, very well.
2 readings will get us the city's portion, and then we may need, I'll get with Mr. Sharp as far as the utilities portion. We may not have those on first reading this coming Monday. We'll do the first reading, the subsequent council meeting, and the second reading for the following meeting in March. But I'll make sure that complies with the schedule.
Thank
Right,
you.
as long as we get them done in March.
Yes, sir.
We're good for the April. So, okay. Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Presley. Next item is Human Resource Committee. Mr. Zuber?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is was reported out of the Human Resource Committee meeting at our last meeting. As I talked about at our last regular council meeting, this is to amend codified ordinance section 260.55, compensation time. This is just an update for the non-bargaining employees. What is rarely talked about as comp time or compensation time. This is time that they are given off or can be converted to pay time based on working more than their 40 hours a week. This is basically mirrors what is in our union contracts at this point in time. And we need to get something on the books for our non-bargaining people. And this also passed out of committee 3-0.
Okay,
And we would ask for first reading next Monday, and it would go for 3 readings.
3 readings. Okay. All right, questions dealing with the amended codified ordinance section 260.55, compensation time, non-bargaining employees. Questions on that? Any other items, Mr. Zuber?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Go to Sewer Committee, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Thank you. This came out of last week's sewer committee meeting, and it talks about it's the 2019 right-of-way storm sewer and lateral work, award the contractor concrete and more. And actually, this is what's called also the storm lateral and tree lawn drainage project in the right-of-way. The city received several bids and is requesting the recommendation of approval to award the project of concrete and more. The way that this is going to work is that with our paperwork that we're going to be receiving, we're also going to be receiving an addendum that's going to have an index there that's going to itemize all the different costs of what could go into the project. Because it is for multiple streets, one street might take line item 1, 4, and 12. The next street might take line item 3, 7, and 11. So all of those fees will be in there. And I'm going to transfer this down to Joe Wright so that he can speak more clearly about the project.
Mr. Wrights?
Thank you. Yes, this is going to give us standardized prices for everything from a sewer cleanout on a storm lateral to a tree lawn drain in someone's front yard, and then a variety of pipe sizes, 6 up to 12 inches and so forth. So this was something that, the finance director and I have talked about. We've been trying to get some standardized prices, plus also have contractor on some type of a time frame to get the work done in the city right away, so that the work that is the city's responsibility can be done prior to the remaining properties going forth and doing their work on their own private property. Up to this point, we've been working with the individual contractors that have been doing it on a house-by-house basis, so it's been, spread across the city, and it's been multiple contractors. And the one thing that we are going to be doing with this is not only having one contractor to deal with for these, but we also have standardized prices that we can go out to the property, evaluate it, say it's gonna take so many feet of pipe, a drain, whether it has to be cutting into the road or cutting into the side yard. So we will have prices that we can then adapt to each necessary property based upon the remaining homes that need work done. So I'm glad that we have this and we can get this moved forward and hopefully make it much more, much easier for Mr. Presley to explain it to the auditors when we've been doing this in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fenderbosh?
Yes, if I could, we'd like to have a vote at the second reading.
Second reading?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Any questions with the 2019 right-of-way storm sewer lateral project contract awarded to Concrete and Mortar? Mr. Arnold?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know, President O'Donnell, that I will not be, I'll be abstaining from this vote due to a conflict.
Sure. Thank you about that. Any further questions? All right, let's go to, do you have any other items, by the way, Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Not for sewer.
That's it. We'll go to Planning Commission, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Thank you very much. The topic is Shandon subdivision, excuse me, PUD Phase 2 final plat. Now, this is a final plat, which means that the city had to accept, the city had to accept prior to it coming to planning, along with Avon Lake Regional Water, that all improvements for this phase have been completed, whether they are water lines, sanitary sewer lines, et cetera, and that all fees have been paid. This final phase will create 12 sublots. It dedicates the remaining portion of Dell Lane and a substreet to be named Temecula Lane. And the builder is requesting that this is brought to a vote at the first reading so that it does not delay him during construction, which he believes he can do some of this work in this weather. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions dealing with the Shandon subdivision PUD Phase 2 final plot. It's going to be on first reading. Any questions dealing with that item? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. At the ward meeting 1 and 2, there was a question asking about all the development in Avon Lake. And we actually are building houses at a moderate rate and a steady rate. In 2017, we had 81 homes constructed. Last year, we had 78. In the first month of the year, we had 7 starts, and last year we had 4. So we're at a pretty steady rate. Plus, it needs to be pointed out that a good percentage of the homes that are being built are homes for people who are downsizing and people who do not have children because they're moving out of very large homes. We're getting quite a large influx from Cuyahoga County after our favorable tax rates, and also we have these nice new smaller homes to enjoy. So again, the question was, are we overburdening our school system? And the answer is the growth is moderate and it's one that can be handled in a reasonable manner by the school system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further questions? Any other items, Mrs. Fenderbosh?
No, we're going to be going into legislation, so we'll have a good project there.
It completes the committee reports. We're going to legislation. The first item is temporary legislation 11,211, approving the improvement plans for Waterside Crossing South Subdivision number 8. Any questions on that item? Go to second reading, temporary legislation 11,205, amending planning and zoning code section 1244, 1250, and 1212 to permit the use of a parking lot as a sole use of a parcel in the business district. And also attached to that, there'll be a public hearing to be held at the council meeting on February 25th, I believe. Any questions on that item? Go to temporary legislation 11,214, authorizing the mayor to execute a professional services agreement for professional environmental consulting services. Any questions on that? Go to temporary legislation 11,215, authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement to acquire Ford F-550 4x2 chassis with equipment for the Public Works Department. Any questions on that? These items came out of public service. Next is temporary legislation 11,217, awarding a contract for the Miller Road Park sand dredging project. Questions on that? Next is temporary legislation 11,218, authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase and sale agreement with West Winds Recreational Association Incorporated. Any questions on that item? Next is temporary legislation 11,219, approving a change order to the contract with Redmond Systems Incorporated. Any questions on that? And lastly, temporary legislation 11,220, amending section 1070.02 of the codified ordinance to provide for turning off park lights. Any questions on that item? That concludes the legislation. We have public input. You have 5 minutes to speak to any item related to Avon Lake. Does anyone like to speak this evening? Mrs. Fenderbush.
Thank you very much. There's some statistics that came out of the sewer committee meeting that I would like to share with the public because we do have some deadlines approaching us quite quickly. And it has to do with the sewer separation lateral project. May I continue? Mm-hmm. Thank you. As of February 14th, there are only 4 homeowners, and I understand that as of today, there are 0 homeowners out of 3,068 that need inspections, which means all the properties have been inspected. 1,608 homes have done work to comply, and there are 334 homes that still need to complete work to comply with their appropriate deadline. And the breakdown is as follows. 120 need to comply by April 30th. It's coming up quickly. And 214 need to apply by June 30th. I would encourage those that have not been under contract, have not reached a contract level, to do so as soon as possible. If you're in need of assistance, you can call on Avon Lake Regional Water, or you can call the Public Works Department, you can call the mayor's office, or you can give me a call at 440-821-4617. We want to assist you and help you in complying. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, with that, we do need to go into executive session. So Mrs. Fenderbosh, if you have a motion.
Yes. In compliance with the Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G, I move to have council adjourn to executive session to discuss imminent litigation and confidential business information of an applicant for economic development assistance.
Discussion? Ms. Rossmarin with the roll, please. We go into executive session.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes?
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
With that, there'll be no other business done this evening. Thank you for viewing.